Okay, so good morning, everyone. Some of you already know me because we have already the third module of our circular buildings training. But for those who doesn't know me, my name is Jurga Tallat-Kelpšaitė. I am a policy advisor for energy and climate protection, working for Deutsche Umwelthilfe, an NGO based in Berlin, Germany. I'm delighted to welcome you today to our third and last module of circular buildings training. And before we start with the training, I would like to give you several organizational hints from my side. So first of all, for Hungarian participants, if you have difficulties formulating your questions in English during the discussion session or after the presentations, my colleagues, Zsofia and I think Christina, are here from Hungary, and they can help you with the translation. Just post your questions in the chat, in this case, in Hungarian, and Zsofia and Christina will translate these questions to English and post them to speakers or participants in the end. It would also be nice if you could leave your cameras on, especially while speaking. And indicate your name and also organization or institution you represent, because this, of course, contributes to a more pleasant communication exchange and, of course, helps a lot for the networking later. If you have any questions, I would ask you to click on the raise hand button. And also, I would like also to ask you to wait with the questions till the end, till the discussion round. But I will allow, of course, a couple of understanding questions right after the presentation. So if you have urgent questions after the presentations of speakers, you can, of course, ask your questions there as well. And as you already know, the training is being recorded, and the recording will be uploaded to our Oiki Serve project website shortly after this training. So these are all organizational hints from my side. Today's event is part of our circular buildings training series, and the training is conducted as part of our project with the full name Sustainable Building Renovation Forming the Future, or short version SURF. And this project is funded under the European Climate Initiative, which is launched by the German Federal Ministry for Economic Affairs and Climate Action. The SURF project is being implemented by three project partners, Deutsche Umwelthilfe leading this project, and AE3R from Romania and Energia Club from Hungary. And the key aim of our project is to stimulate deep and sustainable building renovations by empowering municipal stakeholders across Europe to foster and implement sustainable renovation projects in their municipalities. The circular buildings training, as you can see from this slide, consists of three modules. The first one was dedicated to life cycle assessment and climate-friendly building materials. The second module was focusing on financing options for sustainable building renovation projects. And as you know, the last one today is dedicated to green public procurement and how we can integrate green criteria into public procurement procedure for buildings. What is the green public procurement? So we talk about green public procurement today, but what is green public procurement? Green public procurement is defined by the European Commission in Communication Public Procurement for a Better Environment as a process whereby public authorities seek to procure goods, services, works, and reduce environmental impact throughout their life cycle when compared to goods, services, and works with the same primary function that would otherwise be procured. Public authorities, have lots of power because they are big purchasers of goods, services, and works. They have big power to influence the market towards more environmental market for products and goods and services. However, according to a recent study published by Stockholm Environment Institute, in 2023, so last year. We'll be here about the key findings of this study shortly. So according to this study, 55% of procurement procedure in the European Union is still using the lowest price as only criterion, award criterion. And the study concludes that local authorities need greater awareness with regards to green public procurement, and also clear guidance how to implement it and how to include green criteria in order to have greater societal outcomes. So in this context, we organize our module 3 training of the training, and this training, or this module in this case, tries to fill these gaps, these knowledge gaps among local stakeholders in European countries in the field of green public procurement for buildings. Now you can see the agenda for today. We will have 5 valuable speakers. So we will have 4 presentations, but 5 speakers. We will have presentation by Evelin Piirsalu from the Stockholm Environment Institute. We will have also presentation by Angela Ranea Palma, Maria Gonzalez Torres from the Joint Research Center of the European Commission. And then we will have 2 good practice examples, one from Helsinki. The presentation will be given by Sara Tapiala. And last but not least, the second case study from Italy, Pesaro. The presentation will be given by Margherita Fennamore from Italian National Property Agency. After the presentations, we will have a half an hour discussion round, and then we will wrap up the event. So now I would give the word to Evelin Piirsalu, Senior Expert in the Department of Green and Circular Economic Transformations at the Stockholm Environment Institute. And Evelin will give us an overview of the key findings of the study with the full title, Green Public Procurement, a Key to Decarbonizing Construction and Road Transport in the EU, with a focus on construction. And the study includes case studies from 8 member states. I'm sure Evelin will tell us about it more, from Sweden, the Netherlands, France, Germany, Estonia, Poland, Spain, and Italy. And based on these case studies, the research team identified solutions and best practices and made some policy recommendations on how the European Union and its member states can harmonize and strengthen green public procurement policies. So now I give the floor to you, Evelin, and we are excited already about the key findings of your study.
And thank you for inviting me to give this presentation here. The study actually, yeah, like Jurga said, ended already last spring, and the main work was done also in 2022. But I think it's still relevant. Everything we found there. Yeah, so this is my main key points today. Yeah, talking a little bit about project background, but mainly then focusing on key findings and the recommendations. So yeah, the study, we focused on how GPP supports achieving our climate targets, concentrating mainly on construction and road transport, hence low carbon procurement. And our aim was to unpack existing barriers for GPP uptake at member state level, find opportunities to increase the implementation of GPP policies in an effort to contribute to achieve greater coherence between decarbonization policies and GPP related policies. And as Jurga already mentioned, we performed 8 case studies. And these countries were chosen so that these countries comprise a mix of front runners and countries where the uptake is lower. but also large and smaller economies, as well as countries with centralized and decentralized governance systems. So to see like more diverse group of countries. And as already mentioned, we have focused on the two main sectors. But today I'm more focusing on construction because it is quite carbon intensive sector, not just because of the construction activity itself, but also due to construction materials and the carbon embedded there. However, low carbon construction procurement is complex due to high level of embodied carbon in the construction materials, in addition to high operational emissions, which is due to energy use. And it has also complex value chains involving a lot of different actors. But yeah, straight to the key finding also, which I give you in four main topics or sections. And starting with governance, analyzing the governance at the case study countries, we saw that very different governance setups in different countries. And many identities or entities involved at national, subnational, and EU level. And this creates quite a complex landscape to coordinate and to keep up to date for procurement offices, because there is a lot of overlapping work. Therefore, we see that we need to foster collaboration and coordination to align environmental and economical targets with procurement policies and practices, and that across national ministries and agencies, with and within EU institutions, and as well as across member states. But also establishing stronger international collaboration to harmonize approaches and accelerate progress across nations is also needed. Now turning now to goals, policies, and regulations. We saw in our study that most countries have national action plans developed already, started more than 10 years ago, and many of them been updated. And they are in place to support the development of GPP, which include mainly overarching goals. But in most cases, previous targets have not been met. And in most member states, using GPP is voluntary beyond the EU directives. But for some countries like Italy and Estonia, GPP is mandatory for a selected number of product groups, and from these, it's actually mandatory also in some other countries, but among those eight countries, Italy and Estonia had set, even though the construction is not one of them. However, we found a lack of follow-up on whether mandatory rules are applied and whether winning bids follow the requirements or scores that contributed to the winning the bid. And for that, we also recommend that we need to set product-specific carbon baseline values and targets, and establish mandatory product level minimum carbon criteria that is then gradually sharpened. This should be done in collaboration with trade associations and ensure that requirements follow and support ambitious decarbonization pathways and phase out products with lower environmental performance. But also we need to introduce voluntary reward systems for best performing offers, expand EU directives to include embedded emissions, which is especially important related to construction sector, and impose EU level minimum penalty thresholds if the established criteria are not met. Now also a little bit about monitoring systems. We found in our study that the data is lacking on the practices, impact, and mitigation potential of GPP, which makes it difficult to argue for the best value for money of GPP, as well as following up on the progress made. And the monitoring of GPP uptake is not harmonized across countries, resulting in incomplete and incomparable results. So the definitions for the EU and member states are not the same, the definitions of what is meant by GPP exactly. So to solve these discrepancies, we need what we need is an EU level system for harmonized definitions, methodology, reporting, and monitoring for assessing both environmental impact of procured products, but also GPP uptake. But it's important that such a monitoring system allows to distinguish between product groups at the national level, not just general. Also, mandatory annual reporting on member states' environmental impacts from procurement to ensure transparency and enable to track the progress is needed. And finally, to incentivize GPP practices at the procurement officer level, we need to develop tools to allow procuring entities to monitor GPP uptake and impacts at the organization level, allowing them to align internal goals and incentives. And these tools would be good if they are also harmonized across Europe. And finally, implementation and uptake of GPP. A lot of tools and support mechanisms have been developed, both at the EU and member state level. However, many barriers to implementation still remain. The most common barriers we found and identified during our study were lack of knowledge and capacity, lack of resources, lack of standardized data and reporting system, lack of public-private dialogue, but also procurers also feel that they lack mandate for GPP, and thus they fear litigation and disputes when they do their procurements, which kind of prolongs the procurement times and is creates unnecessary additional work for them. So overall, GPP good practices rely on particularly informed and motivated individuals or procurers, but unfortunately, for the vast majority, all these mentioned barriers still stand. In terms of uptake of GPP, we see big differences between countries, ranging from 1% of procurements in Poland to 67% in the Netherlands. Of procurement being green. However, it must be noted that here the numbers are not equally complete or comparable due to monitoring issues I just mentioned earlier. We also found that member states experience difficulties in systematically using GPP in an impactful way, and there is a large gap between the targets and the actual implementation. However, in some countries, regions, and cities, there are already ambitious and innovative practices today. And good examples there could be brought from Catalonia, Berlin, and Rome. So for better implementation and uptake of GPP, establishing harmonized definitions and metrics for reporting, measuring, progress, and evaluating the tenders is needed. It is also important to introduce clearer incentives, binding requirements, and enforcement mechanisms covering operational and embedded emissions. And it's also crucial to increase the support to procurement officers through clear mandates and resources such as time, funding, and support, different support mechanisms. And also there is a need for better coordination within and across countries, but also to enhance collaboration and knowledge exchange among procurers and businesses. And then to conclude, the public procurement is currently underused policy instrument to drive low carbon innovation. There is an untapped potential to turn procurement into a strategic policy tool that can accelerate decarbonization. And for that, GPP policies need to be aligned with industry transition pathways. Procurers need to be given a clear mandate and capacity to play a strategic role in implementing these visions. And the EU can play a crucial role in supporting the implementation of impactful practices through standardized reporting methods, tools, and mandatory requirements. And many innovative examples are already being implemented in countries and different regions or municipalities, and a great source of inspiration for others. There was 3 country briefs, which were covering Sweden and Netherlands in one of the briefs, Estonia and Poland in the other, and German and France in the third one. But there was also final project reports covering all 8 case studies, and also research on EU legislation. And finally, the policy brief, which covered key insights and recommendations. All these publications can be found in the project website, which the link is here, but also through this QR code you get to that page. But if you have any additional questions or ideas, and this project was done in collaboration with SCI Tallinn office and headquarters in Stockholm. So our contacts are here if needed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Evelin, for this very good overview over the situation in at least 8 analyzed countries. And I think these countries can also represent the picture in the EU in total. I think we have a very wide range, like from 1% to 67%. As we know, Netherlands is also quite a leader when it comes to green policies. So I think the rest of the countries most probably are somewhere in between. So there are still lots of problems to be solved in order to move forward with green public procurement, as we can see. So now I ask the participants, the audience, are there any understanding questions which you would like to ask Evelin? Or if not, I would like, of course, ask you to wait with your questions until the discussion round. Okay, doesn't seem so. So then thank you, Evelin, once again.
Thank you.
Let's see what comes in the discussion round. And our next speakers, we have now 2 speakers for the next presentation. The next speakers are the Scientific Project Officer Angela Ranea Palma and Project Officer Maria Gonzalez Torres from the European Commission's Joint Research Center. And Angela and Maria are part of the Joint Research Center's team working on the update of the European Union's voluntary green public procurement criteria for the design, construction, renovation, demolition, and management of buildings. And they will now present us the revised criteria for buildings.
Okay, thank you, Jurga. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure for us to be here today, joining this circular building training. We want to thank the organization for inviting us and for giving the opportunity to disseminate our work. We are going to share now our most recent work regarding the green public procurement, considering it as a tool, a key tool to reach sustainability in the building sector. So the presentation is structured into main sections, a general overview, and then we will go deeper inside the criteria. So who we are? We are the JRC, with the Joint Research Center. We do science for policy. We provide scientific evidence for policymaking process, and we are more than 400 people in Seville specialized in the following areas. Our unit is dealing directly with circular economy and sustainable industry, and we belong to the product policy analysis team, which is the team responsible of addressing the EU product policy. Why GPP? GPP is interesting for the building sector because all of you know that this sector is responsible in Europe of half of the extracted material, half of the total energy consumption, a third of the water consumption, and a third of the waste generation. So this sector is key to achieve climate neutrality by 2050. Is key also to meet the Clean Industrial Deal, and it's essential for the construction industry to be sustainable and competitive. But we always have to deal with this question. Which or who is our target? Our target is divided, it's split into main categories. The contracting authorities, so we have here 3 different levels: local, regional, and national governments. And on the other hand, the building sector. Also the project manager, the design team, the main construction contractor, all of them need to be aware because they are the providers, so they need to know about the criteria, and we need to ease the task to them for fulfill the requirements of the green procurement. For what this green public procurement, which is the aim and the scope? Well, Jurga stated at the very beginning that green public procurement is a process whereby public authorities seek to procure goods, services, and work, trying to reduce the environmental impact throughout the whole life of these goods, services, and work. And our scope is quite diverse. We deal with road lighting, we address computers, and also buildings. So we are struggling with quite different products. How GPP is able to manage that? Well, GPP criteria so far are voluntary. They are structured in themes. They have 2 different ambition levels, the core level and the comprehensive level that is more demanding. When defining the criteria, we try to keep the coherence with all the EU policy framework. We approach the criteria with a circular thinking. We rely on the skills of the industry that need to apply this criteria. We highlight the design stage as essential in terms of reaching sustainability in this sector. We introduce concepts like building as a material bank. We set criteria in terms of adaptability because after the pandemic, all of us were aware that most of our spaces can have different uses. We introduce the concept of the construction instead of demolition for the sake of recovering or taking the most of the materials that build the building at the end of its life. We consider as an essential concept the whole life carbon. We introduce passive measures. We highlight the well-being of the occupant, introduce a new theme regarding the resilience of the building against climate change. As a way of an example, we use elements like green systems. So all these elements of the character, we can stress that it's important to highlight the synergies between these elements because they are not isolated criteria. They have interaction between them. So for example, if we consider a passive technique like cross ventilation, we are improving the indoor air quality. So we are enriching the well-being of the occupant, and we are dealing with heat wave, for example, with extreme weather events. So we need to consider the trade-offs and the synergies between all of these criteria. So to make the long story short, inside the scope, we have office and educational buildings, social housing. We have dealing with 4 types of criteria. You know very well all of them: selection criteria, technical specification, contract performance conditions, and our criteria. But for us, it's important to stress out that the selection criteria has been used as a way of upskilling the building sector. It's important to consider that when we design these criteria, we try to set a pool of detailed measures in order to allow the contracting authority to choose the most appropriate one to adapt the diverse reality of Europe in which the projects is being carried out. One important element that we had in mind when we designed this criteria is the coherence, because when we started to work in this project, all the European framework was under revision. The most important pieces of legislation were under discussion. So we, for us, was essential to keep some coherence. So we cross-check key policies as the levels framework, the European framework for sustainability, and of course the EU taxonomy. So we structure our criteria in 7 themes. The first of them is energy consumption and GHG emissions, material circularity, efficient use of water resources, occupant comfort and well-being, vulnerability and resilience to climate change, life cycle costing, and biodiversity. It's important to highlight that the vulnerability and resilience to climate change and biodiversity are two new topics that never has been addressed. And then the status of the GPP process. Well, this has been a long process of co-creation involving stakeholders in a transparent and participatory way, and looking for the consensus. So we are happily now at the end of this stage. We passed the inter-service, sorry, we passed the inter-service consultation between different general directorates of the European Commission. So we are now in the final stage. It's important to highlight that we we have 2 different stages: the science phase and the policy phase. In the science phase is the phase that where GRC is involved. We have this co-creation process, and as a result of it, we have a GRC criteria proposal. But then, after our participation, arrives the policy stage, where the trade-offs are analyzed between different DGs, trying to find the consensus, and then the output is a criteria set that sometimes happily match our proposal, but other times it's enriched with the conclusion of this trade-off, so can vary in some aspects. So I have finished this first overview, and then I am going to pass the floor to my colleague Maria, which is the one responsible of going deeper inside the things. Maria, whenever you want.
Thank you. I think you can hear me. Okay, so as you said, Angela, thank you. Now we will look closer to each of the themes. So starting with the theme, the criteria within the theme 1 on energy consumption and greenhouse gas emissions, we divide the criteria into blocks: 1 on use stage energy consumption and other on whole life carbon assessment. So starting with those of use stage energy consumption, we propose some criteria that aim to be transitional. First, we propose some things that are more ambitious than the nearly zero energy buildings definitions in the EPBD, but when available, they will switch to match the definitions and the requirements as per the zero emission buildings. We propose as well some criteria on the installation of passive features, for instance, regarding the thresholds for heat transfer and solar gain by climatic zones. And we also touch upon efficient equipment, such as HVAC, heat lighting, water heating, but also other building equipment, proposing to choose on the top 30 or 20% of best performing product covered by energy labeling delegated acts. As award criterion, we also award those with the highest class of the energy labeling or those within the best available technology benchmarks in eco-design delegated acts. We also include some criteria on renewables share, defining some minimums and also awarding higher shares of these kind of sources for the estimated energy consumption. And for the whole life carbon assessment, we propose just to report the global warming potential as a technical specification, but awarding also the reporting of other impact categories, typically in the LCAs. Regarding theme 2 on material circularity, we propose criteria on the bill of material, on design for the construction, for adaptability, for reparability and upgrading, for construction, demolition, excavation, waste management, and operational waste management. So as you see, the order of the criteria follow the lifespan of the building to ease the understanding, and they have been defined with a thinking on the circular economy, including selective demolition, removal of hazardous substances, facilitating reuse, high quality recycling materials, and also the design for adaptability. Awarding on top of these, we also propose, as I said, the criteria on design of reparability for reparability and upgrading. And we propose minimum shares for preparing for reuse and recycling of non-hazardous construction, demolition, and excavation waste, including and excluding soil and stones. Also, we include contract performance conditions on the report or on the log of waste. And moving now to theme 3, which is on efficient use of water resources, we include criteria on per capita potable water use, water efficient devices and appliances, rainwater harvesting systems, and grey water reuse systems. As an example, for instance, of course, we subject the inclusion of some of them to a feasibility study, and also to highlight that we include a contract performance condition of verification of compliance of installed systems. As for theme 4, which is on the occupant comfort and well-being, we touch upon the topics that you can see here. So indoor air quality, thermal comfort, lighting, acoustics, and accessibility. So we propose a hybrid approach for the installation of combination of passive and mechanical ventilation. Also, we put thresholds on ventilation rates and indoor CO2 concentrations as per the standard EN 16798. We also cover the ventilation systems, like the installation of ventilation systems with air filters, sensor monitoring control of indoor pollutants other than CO2. And regarding the thermal comfort, we refer to, again, to the standard for classes of thermal environment. And regarding the accessibility, we refer to the European Accessibility Act and the standard EN 17210. For the theme 5, which is one of the main novelties here, we touch now vulnerability and resilience to climate change, proposing an assessment of the climate vulnerability risk, which is faced first in a vulnerability phase and then on the risk assessment. This is a completely new approach, and the results of this assessment would lead to different ambition levels. So we propose also criteria on future thermal comfort, setting thresholds for time out of range, but also we propose a pool of measures to actually target these the results of the vulnerability and risk assessment. So the team could decide on which passive features they choose to minimize the overheating risk, to minimize or to design for resilience to drought, to design for resilience to storm or heavy precipitations, or to flooding, and also including the sustainable drainage. Of course, you have to take into account some trade-offs with other hazards that needs to be balanced. For the next theme, which is theme 6, on the life cycle costing, we propose to do an assessment of the life cycle cost and report it according to the standard 15459, and of course in synergy with levels indicator 6.1 and its rules. And finally, for theme 7 on biodiversity, again, this is a new one. We have some criteria on landscaping and habitat creation, also criteria on the installation of green roof and green walls, artificial lighting at night, and certification for good products. These all would be accompanied by a biodiversity assessment, and this includes some minimum percentages, for instance, on the use of materials that are certified or on the RULO percentage. So despite being super quick, I hope you got like the main goal of all this is to go towards zero emission buildings that are repairable, adaptable, durable, comfortable, cost-effective, and resilient. So actually, yeah, the idea of GPP criteria in building is to be key for circularity in this sector. So with this, we finish our presentation, and of course, welcoming questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Angela and Maria, for this very good overview over the process and what's coming next with the criteria. I will ask the participants if there are any direct questions, but I have one question myself, if you can answer. So you said that from the scientific point of view, the criteria are almost finalized, and now the policy process will start. So what do you think by when we can expect to see the criteria on the website of the European Commission?
Okay, the political discussion is almost finalized, and we have some inputs on that. There are only minor comments, so I think that it's the GPP criteria for the building sector is about to be finished, but this is something that I have said before, so I'm not so sure because it's not in our hands. But we hope that for the end of this quarter of the year, the criteria will be published. This is our approach, but as I said, this is not in our hands. But the political discussion is finished. So we have some inputs. We are waiting for the last inputs in order to adapt this the criteria to these minor changes. But it's something that it's about to happen.
Okay, thank you. And another question from my side. Will you stick to the approach of having 2 ambition levels for the criteria, like it was before, that you have like core criteria and then you have these comprehensive criteria? So you stick to this approach, right?
Yeah, we are using the same approach. So, but we have to say, Maria, you can add whatever you consider. We have to say that we have been quite brave when designing this criteria in terms of sustainability. So, because we need to foresee what will happen with the revision of all the legislative framework. So we cannot stay quiet waiting for the others to finish the revision. So we take some risks, but we are really happy with the results. So I think even keeping the same approach of core and comprehensive, the criteria are really are quite adequate to the real policy framework, to the current policy framework.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So we look very much forward to seeing these criteria soon, I hope. And thank you very much. So I'm asking again, is there any urgent questions you want to ask Maria and Angela? I see one question from Philip Freisleben. Philip.
Yeah, thank you very much for presenting those criteria, which I believe would be of great interest to our procurement department. I was wondering if you did not look at these human rights criteria that have been discussed greatly in the past years, because they were not part of the mandate, or if you actively chose to not look at them because, I don't know, they are not as big as an issue as some NGOs might make it look.
I will appreciate that you elaborate a little bit on what do you refer with the human rights. Are you talking about social approach or? Yep.
Yes,
well,
exactly.
Yeah. Well, we have the building sector is huge, as you well know. So we have a lot of topics to address. Finally, we deal with adaptability, not only in terms of the use of the space, but considering people that has different circumstances. So we deal with adaptability, but it's the only part of social that we handled.
So did Angela answer to your question, Philip?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, great. So I don't see any other hands raised. Then I would move to our next presentation. We'll hear one of the two good practice examples now that should demonstrate how green public procurement is being implemented in the European cities. Now we will see how green public procurement is implemented in Helsinki. And Sara Tapiala, head of the Environment and Energy team at the Urban Environment Division at the City of Helsinki, will present us how environmental and energy targets can be implemented in public building projects, and what is needed to successfully green public procurement buildings. I give the word to you now, Sara.
Thank you, Jyrka. Yeah, as Jyrka said, I come from the city of Helsinki and happy to be here to share our thoughts and experience on this topic. I put my presentation in 3 phases. I tell first a little bit about the city of Helsinki as a building owner, and then I talk about tools to do the target setting, and last, the implementation of those tools in the construction process. And I think this works quite well after the previous presentation, actually. Yeah, City of Helsinki is the second biggest facilities owner in Finland, and quite big in Nordics also. And there you can see some numbers, how many properties and how many million square meters of facilities we manage, and quite huge building investments yearly too, something like 300 million euros this year, and about the same level every year. Okay, then From my point of view, what you need to successfully implement green or whatever the topic is in the public procurement, I think first you need some kind of framework or tool where to make those abstract targets like understandable and possible to achieve. We all know those words related to this, but if you go to the building project and say that you need to be this and that, it won't happen because it's too abstract. So you need some kind of tool where the targets or the targets are made clear. Then you need to understand the design and construction process, because when we talk about public procurement, sometimes it's, or generally talk about procurement, it's sometimes hard to understand in the construction process that what actually is the procurement and in which phase you should enter in your targets and tools. And finally, you need a way to measure how you did and did you get what you wanted. Okay, there is already a lot of tools for the target setting. I guess everybody knows those commercial tools for certifications, LEED, BREEAM, etc. There is several local schemes also, and I think they are quite good generally. You can use them. It's not a problem. They are more general, but you can pick also the credits inside the tool or the certification which you want to achieve. So you can bespoke it a little bit. And I know also cases where the certification has been used as a tool for the target setting, but they haven't even gone to the certification phase. But also in this case, you should keep in mind that the verification of the results is still important. So you need some other way for that if you are not seeking for the actual certification. Then you can also do your own target setting, maybe based on the commercial ones or whatever you think is good for you. We in Helsinki has done our own set of targets, and I think that might be worth if you have a large amount of projects, like we have several hundreds going on, because then the cost of the certification can be quite high. And in this case, you can also concentrate your target setting to the topics that are important for you. Like we have quite comprehensive design guidelines ourselves. So there are some of the topics that are generally covered in those commercial certifications that we don't need in our own target setting because they are handled elsewhere, like the indoor environment conditions and this kind of stuff. But in this case, you also need to think the whole process from the measurable targets to the verifications. So if you are like building one building every now and then, I don't think this is worth doing. And then what not to do is that you shouldn't leave the actual target setting for the individual project. We have tried that and it doesn't work because it's just confusing and they don't know what to target. So you need to give the targets to the project. Then the other part where I think it's hard to understand sometimes how to implement the green in this procurement process is that the traditional construction process looks something like this, very roughly, very not. It's more complicated, but this is a rough estimate. And if you are here in the procurement phase and start talking about your green targets or this kind of stuff, it's already late because actually you need to be already here in the concept and design stage. Like generally in the concept stage, like defining what you are targeting, and latest when the design phase starts, you need the targets where you are going with your design. And when you come to the procurement phase, you are procuring this design you have designed here. So generally you don't need to put in any new targets in the procurement phase if your construction process looks something like this. And then after the construction phase, you need the verification of the targets and if you got what you asked for. Then at least we and I guess many others have these kind of so-called new project forms, some kind of life cycle projects, lease projects, alliance, etc. And in this case, it's maybe more clear where you need to be with your green targets, because the procurement phase comes before the actual design and construction. So I think this is maybe easier case. But here you need your targets in the tender documents and have the measurable targets. For example, that actual certification. And then quite often the tender process goes so that they are designing for your targets. There might be negotiations, etc. So in this case, I think it's easier to understand where you need to be, but also I think in this kind of process, it's easier to use the commercial certification scheme or the one that was presented before us maybe, or something like that, because then you can set the criteria and target in the beginning. And when you're not guiding the design, you can't really like guide every detail. So this kind of third-party certificate simplifies it a lot. So you can say that I want to have LEED Gold or BREEAM Very Good or whatever your target is. And sometimes we have also done it the way that we say that we want the certain certification level, and we have also picked some certain credits we want the project to fulfill. For example, if we want to target material efficiency especially, so then we say that, okay, BREEAM Very Good and these material efficiency points needs to be included or something like that. So there is a possibilities to use these in different ways. But yeah, maybe one more word that I think, yeah, you should at least do something and like try out and see how it goes. It sometimes people maybe think that it's too complicated, but it's good to do at least something and not to leave all out if it feels very complicated. Start from somewhere and you can learn. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sarah. So again, one question from my side. Where do you think you see Finland when we talk about a percentage of green public procurement? Like we heard in Evelin's presentation that there are countries where public procurement, only 1% of public procurement procedures are green, and we have 67% of procurements being green. So what do you think where Finland would be in this context?
I don't know. I think this is just guessing, but maybe somewhere around 50, maybe 40, 50.
Yeah, okay. So
probably not the worst one, but not the best one either.
Yeah, okay. But still in the top of the list. most probably. Okay, so thank you very much. Again, someone wants to ask a question to Sarah right now, or you want to wait until the discussions? I cannot see anyone. Okay, then I will proceed with the next presentation. And yeah, thank you, Sarah, once again.
Thank you.
I hope you have some questions later in the discussion round. And now, last but not least, we come to our last presentation today and also in our training, circular buildings. Second example of good practice. And our final expert today is Margherita Finamore, an expert architect at the Italian National Property Agency. And she previously was working for the Pesaro Council, City Council. And Margherita will introduce us now, as you can see already from the slide, to the replicability or applicable model of green public procurement, and also show us some case studies on sustainable school construction, and one project also on the renovation, as far as I know. So thank you, Margherita, for being here today, and I give the word to you now.
Thank you. Welcome to everyone, and thank you for having me at this workshop. As you said, I am an architect and a public servant at the Italian National Property Agency that is in charge to provide this support to the local authorities to not to lose the next generation European funds, and to support them to apply the green public procurement. And I'm specializing in planning and designing schools and refurbishing listed buildings. And I hope you will enjoy my presentation and open a discussion. You will be listening about 5 case studies from 2010 and 2023 to demonstrate the replicability of this process. And so I described these 5 case studies, and then we can open a discussion together. From my side, as I am a technician, but I have to say that I am a PhD student at the Bradford University on the circular economy. But here I would like to highlight what are the questions to develop a systemic and effective green public procurement process, how to manage the green public procurement to contribute to the achievement of the SDGs and the circular economy strategy, and how to develop the green public procurement procedures to meet the social, environmental, and economic goals, incorporated selected criteria in the contract notice aligned with EU GPP principles, and establish the work criteria and the weighting in the contract notice or in the tender specification to achieve the desired goals. What is difficult? Is difficult to apply all principles related to the economic, social, and environmental in a systemic way into the green public procurement in the building sector. The crucial question to answer before planning the tendering process is what are the stakeholders involved in the whole value chain, in the entire process, what's desirable for users, and that is attained to the social and environmental dimension, and what's it's viable in the marketplace that is attained to the economic dimension, and here, what are the technologies that are used, we can use to make our building sustainable, truly sustainable buildings. That's why this is a question aimed at helping to address environmental, economic, and social issues in a specific context or project, and try to find the answer to identify the specific requirements to put in the call for tender. Moreover, this approach fosters a life cycle thinking approach and a circular systemic approach in the building sector. And in this picture, I propose a new methodology to seek to apply the three dimensions that I mentioned, the economic, the environmental, and the social ones, to the building sector. It is necessary to consider the building sector as a whole, including all the aspects, such as population, businesses, the environment, and technologies, as well the relationship among them. And so I developed 10 steps, the stakeholder mapping and stakeholder engagement, analysis of the needs, wishes, and expectations from stakeholders, identify the goals, environmental, social, and economic assessment, technical requirements incorporated in the call for tender, tender evaluation of the offer, signing the contract, construction and site management, monitoring and evaluating of result in use at least 4 or 5 years, ensuring that the achievement are truly met during the usage stage. This is the first example, the first case study. It's a more recent project related the 2 nursery schools. Technical and the administrative support to local authorities was provided by our national agency to ensure they did not lose the next generation European fund. And the project design phase, including all the documents for the tender and the contract, was completed in 10 months, and they are in the construction phase. Here we have the first of the 2 nursery schools that serves 30 children ages 0 to 3. And the project identified the technical requirement to achieve sustainability and expected results: indoor air quality, construction indoor air quality, low emitting materials, construction demolition waste management, environmental product declaration, water efficiency, and near zero energy building. Actually, now to achieve the near energy building standard in Italy is mandatory for public building. And this slide illustrates the scoring card for our environmental and energy efficiency scheme based on, in this case, a LEED certification to ensure the expected outcomes. Bidders must achieve a minimum of score, you can see 60, as outlined in the tender notice. So it means that scoring is made mandatory in the call for tender. The image displays the technical requirements specified in the call for tender. And unlike the next 2 cases, this certification was integrated into the design from the start, while later included it in the tendering process. These highlight the versatility of green public procurement to meet diverse needs. This is the second case study. Is very similar to the first one. It is about construction of a new nursery schools building following the demolition of the old nursery school building to fit around 40 children ages 0 to 3, and both projects were based on a holistic approach and on the microclimate analysis to minimize the energy demand. Again, you can see the identification of the goals that are described in the call for tender. The slide represents the scoring card for the environmental and energy efficiency scheme. We use again the LEED certification, but you can use whatever you are confident more. It's like the previous scenario, that is this second case study is tailored to suit a different context. The result may appear similar, but yet distinct. The score is 61. And the slight difference between the previous case study is in the choice of the indicators to measure the impact. What is most important is that the indicators must must be satisfied with the value indicated in the call for tender. They were made mandatory because of the tender document, which explicitly defined the standard to be achieved in the certification process. And now let's come to the first case study that was the beginning of this replicable green public procurement process. It's the Brancati School. This project exemplifies a replicable green public procurement process using a lifestyle thinking approach. It focuses on 4 sustainability goals: low carbon footprint, minimize environmental impact during the construction and operation, and also construction site and operation management, social comfort, to ensure inclusivity and comfort for all, to create the best place for learning and teaching, renewable energy and cost efficiency, to leverage by passive design for reduced energy consumption and long-term cost saving. It means that social, environmental, and economic requirements identified for this specific project are transformed in objective technical requirements clearly described in the call for tender. And here we have, it's not the scoring card of the LEED certification, but are the criteria that are described in the call for tender. We choose 11 criteria. You can see the scoring the bidders can offer from 0 up to is the maximum. You can see on your light. The mandatory requirement were to obtain also the near zero energy building criteria that require 0 annual energy consumption from non-renewable sources, and also it was mandatory to use the LEED certification. Minimum requirement put in the call for tender was to achieve 60 points, but higher scores result in a greater reward for bidders. The winning proposal achieved the platinum level, and non-compliance result in exclusion from the tender. At the end, we achieved a scoring of 88 points, the LEED certification. So far, it's the highest scoring among all the buildings certified in the LEED certification. This is the fourth case study related to the school gym beside the Brancati School. Compared with the Brancati School process, this was the attempt to apply the concept of material bank. Because the envelope is built with a dry assembly technology, and it means that the majority of materials can be disassembled and reused in the future. And this was a technical requirement described in the call for tender. To ensure the achievement of the expected result, the environmental certification scheme was one of the most awarded criteria, as well as the change of the structure from concrete to timber. The technical offer received a score up to 95 out of 100 points to prioritize the best technical proposal over the economic proposal. The last case study is related to the refurbishment of an old school gym. The design concept was based on microclimate analysis, and also to the material bank, it was a refurbishment that used the dry assembly technology as I use in the recent school gym. And in 2010, the building achieved a near zero energy building standard, despite 6 years before the definition of a near zero energy building was established. So here in this last slide, there are my recommendations. I would like to conclude that achieving sustainable building while meeting environmental, social, and economic targets is feasible through the green public procurement process. The role of public procurement is highlighted as crucial for promoting the integration of sustainability within the building sector. Key recommendations include balanced tender evaluation. Economic offers should not dominate the tender evaluation process. Emphasis should be placed on rewarding companies that demonstrate superior sustainability practices. Weighting sustainability. The awarding point is in tenders should prioritize sustainability and life cycle consideration with a lower comparative weight assigned to the economic offers. Incorporating certification requirements. Tenders should mandate building certification according to established rating system like LEED or DGNB or whatever you are confident more, with explicit references to the necessary credit of these systemic systems, particularly related to the life cycle assessment. And monitoring and reporting. Implement a mechanism for monitoring and reporting throughout the usage stage of a building project to ensure the adherence to sustainability goals. And last is the information sharing, promote the visibility of practical and cost-effective sustainable solution to help to identify and select a sustainable option in building project, as we are going to do just right now. These points together aim to enhance the implementation of sustainable practices in the construction sector while ensuring economic feasibility. This is the last with some credit related to these case studies that are already published in some papers. And this is my email for any question you have in mind even later.
Okay, thank you very much, Margarita, for this very thorough overview of the case studies. I just want to ask you, Margarita, I think it's very good demonstrates that including green criteria is feasible. It demonstrates how it's feasible in practice, because I think we, at the beginning of today's training, we heard that only 55% or even 55% in this case of public procurers still use the price as only criterion, award criterion. And you demonstrated very well that it's possible to use also other criteria, how to score them. And one question from my side, you talk about this replicable green public procurement model. So who else use this model? So is this model being used just for by the national agency you work for, or also by other municipalities than those just mentioned in your presentation?
I think that these models can be used by any public authorities or government body at any level, because the national property that for which I work now is at the national level. When I work for the local municipality is around of 600 of local municipalities spread in Italy. That have a very little administrative territory to be in charge of. So what is important that it is a replicable model, because combine the expected result from the stakeholders analysis, because stakeholders can be the final users as we usually consider them, but also can be investors, can be the local municipality, because the mayor would like to get the visibility. So based on the stakeholder mapping, it is clear what are the needs that from economic, social, and environmental point of view we can put in place in the call for tender. So when you have a very clear picture of what are the needs, the expectation of the project, you can translate these expectation in technical, very clear technical requirement, because these technical requirements were simple, calculated with mathematical calculation, and so we have no regret from companies when we publish the tender. So you can apply this replicable model as you like at every stage, at the national, local, also I think at the private level.
Okay, thank you very much for your answer. So I don't see any hands raised. Still, I would like now to open the discussion round. We can ask you questions. I saw a couple of questions in the chat already. Maybe I will open the chat and read those questions now. So I think the first question is, my question is addressed to Evelin. I would like to ask you, ask if through your research, have you found any tools that front-runner GPP countries are using in order to stimulate the demand and purchase of low-carbon building materials?
Yes, thank you. I saw that question also. Yes, there's one important tool I think that's been used, and that's CO2 performance ladder. Maybe you've also heard about it. It's a tool for it has a tool. It's the twofold goal in a way. It's CO2 emission management tool in a way for companies. It gives them different levels, how they which they can get then when they work on their reduction of their emissions. And then the procurers then can use this performance ladder as a tool to give sort of as a criteria in procurement, so that it's those companies or they can set the level there, and then the companies can use it as showing their level, and then somehow the sort of the price that they give on the bid is sort of reduced then based on their level in the performance ladder, like where their emission reduction is. I'm not really expert on this tool, but I know this in general, and it started out in Netherlands, but now it's been spread wider to Belgium and also Ireland, France, UK, and Germany, and the plan is to spread it even wider in the EU. They have also this organization. I think it's what was the organization who was running it? They have also developed or not developed. They carried out a study. It was a similar time than we were carrying out our study. They carried out a feasibility study for how this tool could be used for low carbon procurement in different countries across Europe. So if you're interested in, then you can look at it. I also put this link here in the chat.
Thank you very much. I hope you could answer the question. If not, Sabina, you can ask for explanations, but I hope the link will help you to find more information on this tool mentioned by Evelin. The next question comes from Katja Decken from an environmental agency in Germany. She says also, thank you for your presentation. I did not see any reference to chemicals, for example, from products, indoor air quality, or rain groundwater relevant. Are there any? So I assume it's for Joint Research Center for you, Angela and Maria.
Yes, maybe I can take this one. Thanks for your question. Indeed, it was absolutely impossible to summarize 100 pages of the criteria on the presentation only of some minutes. So I welcome this kind of questions just to go now deeper in some topics that may be more interesting for you as this one here. So for indoor pollutants, we do refer to sensor monitoring of chemicals such as NOx or SOx and so on. There is a list and that you may be able to find once the criteria are published, and they are defined as a way of award criterion and within the theme 4. As for the rainwater harvesting systems, you can also find some more details on. We refer basically to the design requirements that appear in the EN standard 16941. So all the design requirements for this for water systems, you can find them in the standard. This is actually, as an example on what was asked before, also for the human rights. It was impossible to show here more, but you will find further links to social rights. For instance, as you see in the scope, one of the building types that we cover are social housing. So of course there you can find one of additional link. Also we in the theme 5, where we address the vulnerability to climate change, especially in drafts that especially impact vulnerable areas. We propose a pool of measures to facilitate also their adaptability to this, and also while proposing passive features that are of course more economical than technical features, we are also trying to address these social aspects. So these are just as some additional examples that I hope can illustrate a little bit better. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Angela, do you want to add, or did Maria say everything?
I think Maria covered everything, but it's important to highlight. We have this discussion about including the social component inside the developing process of the criteria several times. At the end, we decided to, all of the themes are, the social aspect is integrated. So if you are able to generate less demanding energy buildings, you are contributing to social, because people with poorer resources or with less purchase capacity is able to afford this building. So the social aspect is clearly embedded in the whole set of criteria, and I think that you can feel it. But as Maria said, it's impossible to summarize about 400 pages of criteria in this minute. So I will recommend you, of course, to go through the report whenever it will be published, and then of course our emails are available in order to clarify whatever is needed after a reading of the criteria.
Okay, thank you very much, both of you, for this answer. I see another question in the chat. The question is, additional criteria might result in higher economic offers. What are your experiences, and how should we motivate low-income local municipalities to expect a higher, better quality and not only lowest price for a given investment?
The technical requirements have their own cost. So if you describe the improvement of the process and to put more emphasis on the achievement of the improvement of the project by the technical requirements that are described in the call for tender, does not mean that you don't achieve an economic advantages, because the improvement costs sometimes very much. So, but is more rewarding the companies that they put their own effort to develop the technical improvement of the project, instead of simple give a discount on the low and put the lower price on the construction costs.
Thank you, Margareta.
Sorry, if I may,
yes.
maybe it's only a reflection, but if we are talking about quantity, of course, it's cheaper to not address sustainability. But if we are talking about qualitative and quantitative analysis, it's better to go for sustainability. This is something that we need to think about in terms of what we are measuring when we decided to go for green public procurement criteria. So maybe it's something that the contracting authority need to think about, even though the building sector need to think about the quantification of everything, the whole process, not only the quantitative part, but almost the qualitative part, and approaching the whole project or with a whole life cycle approach. Because if you think about the design phase, you are able to recover materials because you are thinking about the construction. So you are thinking about getting the most of the material when the building finishes its life. So you need to compare everything in order to say if an offer is cheaper or more expensive than other.
Exactly. Thank you very much. I wanted also to highlight, and you said it, that it's really important to calculate the cost over the whole life cycle of the building. So then, of course, if you only calculate the investment costs, the project might be less expensive at the beginning. But if you calculate the costs over the life cycle, like from the extraction of materials until demolition and removing demolished parts to the landfills, then of course it looks a little bit different. And we had this also in our first training module, life cycle approach. So if anybody is interested in that, please look our recording on our project website. Yeah, so we have another question here in the chat. Thanks for all very good presentations. In the Joint Research Center presentation, you mentioned the BAMB materials database. Can you say a few more words about that? Will it be used in the green public procurement context, and does it have an interface with DPP?
Okay, I will take that question. Thank you for the question. Is quite timely. Of course, for us, the key aspect here is the bill of material. We have in theme 2. The first criterion is the inventory of bill of materials. So this is the starting point in order to allow later to take the most of the materials when the construction process comes in. So we started with this bill of material. This is essential to better address the design for the construction, that is other criteria, and of course to design for reparability, even though for the waste management. But in terms of the links with the digital product passport, as you know, the digital product passport is still is work ongoing. Is something that the Commission is dealing with since the ESPR, the Eco-Design for Sustainable Product Regulation, was launched. So now we cannot say that we have foreseen any link between bill of materials or building as a bank of materials and digital product passport. So sorry.
Okay, thank you very much. I didn't see any more questions in the chat, and I don't see any hands raised. Yeah, so I think to close the discussion, if we have no questions, maybe each of you, I mean the presenters, can say a few words why the local stakeholders need to implement green public procurement to motivate them, and why it's good. And yeah, because we have already good examples, of course, we saw today. And if only 55% of the procurers are implementing the lowest price, it's still like half of the municipalities should use also green criteria, if we can assume this from this study, Evelyn. So yeah, but how to motivate the rest of the municipalities that it's a good idea and it's not that difficult maybe that they should do it. Maybe you can start with Evelin as a first speaker today.
Yes, sorry, I had to jump out for a second, but I heard the last part of it. So the question was about motivating the, yeah. I mean, there's one thing is motivation, but the other thing is that it's actually need for municipalities to put this into strategic documents also. They have to strategically decide that this is what they want to do, that in the GPP is their sort of goal to, or not GPP as such, but the environmental criteria, but also we can talk about circularity criteria, low carbon criteria, like what are their sort of strategic goals and targets that they would like to address through also their procurement. And then if they have put it really down in their strategic document, also not maybe at city level, but also, yeah, organizational level also, then this kind of sets message and motivates the procurers to actually follow that. Because one thing is to be part of some projects that maybe there's some pilot procurements, and then yeah, some procurers are more knowledgeable and so on. But then this through the strategic approach, this is sort of becomes like mainstream in the public sector organizations, and that's where the message goes down to all of the procurers, and that they would need to really work towards these goals and to set these criteria also. So this is my main message, I would say.
Okay, thank you, Evelin. And now Angela and Maria.
Okay, I will go first, but I'm sure that Maria has something to complement after myself. Well, for us, it was a real challenge to address this project, because Europe is rather diverse, so we need to design criteria for different realities. We have not only the north and the south, but we have drought episodes, flooding episodes. We are dealing with energy. We are dealing with different topics that we try to compress in 7 themes. That, of course, it a huge task. It was a huge task. So, first of all, what we tried to do was to make the criteria easy to be understood, because it's important for people that works in procurement, work with a lot of staff, so they usually are not experts. So for us, one of our priorities was to make the criteria easy to understand, not only for the contracting authorities, but also for the building sector. After that, we try to do it not so prescriptive in terms of provide the design team and the architects with some capacity of decide what is better, because finally they are the expert, and they have the knowledge. Then we picture this pool of measures that combined can be evaluated, can be balanced, can be modeled in order to provide this specific solution for each of the situations of that the contracting authority could find. Also, the contracting authorities and the building sector need to be aware of the motivation to reach sustainability, because it's not only a question of green thinking. And now we are suffering this lack of materials, lack of raw materials. So we are dealing with critical raw materials. So we need to reuse, recover everything what is in a building in terms of continue doing that. So it's something that we need to be aware of. that is not a question of I am a green person, so I think in sustainability. No, it is something more touchable, more I don't know how to say, but more important. So I think, Maria, if you have something to add.
Yes, fully agree with, of course, with what you said, but maybe to motivate contract authorities public authorities in general. I think I read, I'm saying this by heart, but the figure, the public authorities are responsible for 14% of the GDP, so they are actually responsible of a huge impact in European economy. So I would do the link also with their responsibility to lower their impact. So this could also motivate them in the sense that leading by example is quite important. So of course, promoting sustainability in their choices can of course help to citizens also choose greener solutions when they have to do their choices in purchases and in general in the way they live. So yes, just to complement this with the impact the public authorities have.
Okay, thank you, Maria. And oh, Sarah, your camera is off, but I hope you are still here.
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, I maybe would like to challenge a bit the idea that you can't do green public procurement and lowest price at the same time, because I think you can. And you can easily put the green criteria in the mandatory criteria for the tender and then go for the lowest price and get the market price. It doesn't always need to be something super innovative or something special the tenders need to figure out. You can just have the basic criteria of yours and ask for the tender for that and go for the lowest price. So it doesn't always mean that there is no green criteria if it's lowest price. It can be hidden in the tender.
Okay, thank you. And you say that from the practice. And Margareta, what can you add? What suggestions you have? Inspirational words?
Yes, thank you. I believe that green public procurement can foster the green thinking and the transition to the net zero carbon, because it involves companies, technicians, and people in general that contemporaneously work for the public and private sector. So use green criteria and in the design and in construction to obtain circular buildings can change the mindset of all the stakeholders involved in the building sector. And to motivate the public authorities, I think that the circular buildings are more resilient and welcoming. So this change of approaching the design and the tendering process is crucial to get buildings that are meet social, environmental, and economic requirements. And people are happy. If you're thinking about the schools, parents, children, teachers are happy to use these schools. So it is leverage to foster such a building is the example, give the evidence of this impact.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Looking at the time, I see no questions. I give the last chance to raise your hand if there are some remaining questions you would like to ask. The chat has no further questions. I don't see the hands raised as well. So yeah, before we close our today's event, I still want to share a couple of slides and couple of informations with the participants here today. So before we close our event today, I wanted to draw your attention to some deliverables we are working on and are finalizing currently in the frame of our SURF project. So we produced 3 fact sheets, one on climate-friendly building materials, another one on financing sustainable building renovation projects, and also green public procurement topic. Each of them include one case study from European city or region. And we also finalize the sustainability checklist and green public procurement guidelines, which is very relevant for today's topic for buildings. And all these documents are meant to support local stakeholders in implementing sustainable renovation projects in their municipal areas. So these documents are now in design phase and will be soon be uploaded on our project website. My colleague Victoria will post in the chat the link to our project website. So if you are interested, please check in the coming month. Most probably you will see the documents already there. And last thing from our side, we have a final event within the frame of our project, the EU-wide policy conference, fostering sustainable building renovation in Europe. This is a hybrid conference. It will take place on the 19th of November. And it's possible to take part in Berlin in the Impact Hub or online via Zoom. And for those who participate in presence in Berlin, you will have also the possibility to see a circular house, because the Impact Hut is located in the so-called circular house, which was renovated according to circularity principles or circular economy principles. So we will offer also the guiding tour to those present in Berlin. And yeah, if you have interest in participating online or in presence in Berlin, you see here also the link to the registration and to the program of the conference. And you still have time to register yourself by the 1st of November. So now it's all I wanted also to mention here. And now I would say a big thank you to all of you, especially to our speakers today, valuable experts, for your time, for your expertise, for your participation in the discussions, for your answers, and also for the participants for being here today, for posing your questions. So yeah, thank you very much. I'm really happy to close our circular buildings training with the last module today. I hope you could learn something new in our 3 modules, and you can use this knowledge in your municipalities and greening your renovation projects and construction projects. Thank you very much, and I wish you all the best.